A fatal mistake. Protect your home with Saint Benedict's shocking truths about jealousy evil. A chill hung heavy in the air that night, a blanket of dread settling over the small town of Willow Creek. The full moon cast eerie shadows that stretched long and thin, flickering like whispers of ancient secrets. It felt wrong, almost alive, as if the town itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. At the center of it all was the old Saint Benedict statue, perched precariously on the edge of the cemetery like a guardian too weary to protect. People said the statue could see into your soul, catching those who dared harbor jealousy or bitterness. The tale spun around the statue like a web, deepening with each passing year. It was said that if someone spoke ill of their neighbor, the statue would bleed a crimson tear sliding down its stone cheek. The townsfolk often crossed the street to avoid its gaze, fearful of being judged, of being marked. And last week, it happened. The power went out, plunging the town into complete darkness. A scream shattered the silence. Clara, the baker, found her prized recipe book burned to a crisp, flames licking away her dreams. No one could explain the fire, and whispers about the curse began to circulate like wildfire. "Did you hear about Clara's book?" they said, eyes darting with fear. Saint Benedict must be angry. Just then, a shadowy figure appeared at the edge of town, cloaked in darkness, shrouded in mystery. Panic rippled through the small gathering outside the bakery as gasps filled the air. Could this be the cause of all the misfortune? Who was this person that appeared out of nowhere, their presence heavy with foreboding? Every townsperson felt a knot tighten in their chests, a lump forming in their throats. Something deep inside them whispered that this stranger wasn't just passing through. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. A deep, unsettling silence came over the crowd as the figure stepped closer. Their face remained hidden, but the townspeople could feel eyes boring into them, eyes filled with an ominous knowledge. "You have angered higher powers," the figure's voice rang out, sharp and piercing, cracking through the damp night air like lightning. Panic surged, and Clara gripped the doorframe, her heart racing. What if their jealousy had summoned this entity? What if the statue wasn't just a stone guard, but something much darker? Every person stood frozen as the figure moved like smoke, swirling around them, sowing seeds of fear and mistrust. What would happen next? Would the town endure more misfortunes? Or was there a way to appease the forces stirred by their own envy? As the figure lingered, a sense of impending doom loomed heavy, leaving everyone grasping for answers. The tension in the air crackled with mystery and dread. The figure advanced, their cloak billowing as if the very shadows were alive, pulling deeper into darkness. Clara's fingers tightened around the doorframe, her knuckles white with fear. The townsfolk shifted nervously, casting anxious glances at one another, silently questioning their fate. "Who are you?" someone finally managed to whisper, voice trembling. The hush was deafening, punctuated only by the distant rustle of leaves, twisting like old bones in the night breeze. "I am the one who sees." The figure's voice seeped into the silence, chilling and melodic, striking fear into the hearts of all who heard it. "I come as the harbinger of your own making. Your secrets and sins have reached the ears of Saint Benedict. You have brought this upon yourselves." Gasps erupted. A chill rolled through the crowd, like a dark wave washing over the unsuspecting. Clara's thoughts raced a maelstrom of guilt and panic. Everyone in Willow Creek had secrets, whispers of jealousy that often echoed louder than the truth. That creeping doubt creeping in now. What if her envy over her neighbor's bakery had sparked this madness? As the figure continued speaking, their voice rose, growing more ominous, the weight of their words pressing down upon the townspeople like lead. Those who harbor ill will not go unpunished. Look to your hearts, and you will find darkness. Look to your minds, and you will hear the whispers of betrayal. An unseen hand tightened around Clara's throat. Regret clawed at her insides, the memory of her resentment surfacing like oil in water. The baker down the street, the one whose cakes were more popular than hers. The envy she had felt burning within her, now threatened to consume her soul. The figure lifted an arm, revealing a hand that glimmered like silver in the moonlight. You must atone, or the curse will spread. One must be sacrificed to quell the wrath that binds you. Frozen, the townspeople exchanged panicked looks. Sacrifice? The word hung heavy in the air, thick with fear and uncertainty. Then came a second voice, trembling but defiant. What does that mean? Who will be sacrificed? Greg, the town sheriff, advanced hesitantly, his face a mixture of anger and dread. The figure turned, their hidden face piercing him with an intensity that made everyone step back. The one who carries the heaviest burden of jealousy shall pay the price, they intoned. Then, just as suddenly as they had arrived, they stepped back, blending into the shadows. The crowd erupted, shouts of fear and accusation ricocheted off the walls of the bakery, echoing through the dimly lit streets. Fingers pointed in all directions, but one singular seed of doubt rooted itself within Clara's heart. Was it her they sought? The thought spiraled. The chatter morphed into a chaotic cacophony of fear, building the tension until it felt like the air was tightening around them all. What do we do? Clara shouted over the din. Her voice cracked, but the panic gripped her, forcing her to step forward. You must confront your demons. A sharp voice cut through the noise again. It was the figure, appearing suddenly before her, cloaked in darkness yet somehow radiant with an unsettling energy. Face your envy. Only then can you remove the curse, and just like that, with the breeze shifting and the moonlight flickering, the figure vanished, leaving chaos in their wake. Clara stood, heart racing, breath shallow. She felt the harsh weight of every envious thought she had ever held. The town was on the brink of hysteria, and the sense of looming dread wrapped tighter around them. Was there truly a way to cleanse their sins, or would they lose everything to the shadows that hung over Willow Creek? As the aftermath swirled around her, one question pierced through the chaos. Who among them would have to pay the ultimate price? Clara felt the weight of countless eyes on her, each one filled with suspicion and dread. The air grew thick, suffocating, and the noise around her faded into a low hum. She could hear her pulse, loud and frantic in her ears. How had it come to this? The town she loved felt foreign, the faces of her friends now transformed into masks of accusation. Clara! Greg's voice broke through, pain lacing each syllable. He stepped closer, his brow furrowed with the burden of his own fears. What do you know? You were close to the baker. They can't be serious about choosing someone to sacrifice. She shook her head, panic twinging in her gut. I don't know. There was too much to unravel. The baker's sweet pastries had filled so many bellies, and now Clara's own guilt gnawed at her like a wild animal, relentless and insatiable. Everyone has got their secrets, Clara, Greg pressed. Things that could put us at risk. But we can't let this figure pull us apart. We need to find a way to protect ourselves. His words buzzed in her mind like a swarm of angry bees. But protect themselves from what? From whom? Clara caught a glimpse of the night sky, the stars sparkling cold and distant, indifferent to the chaos below. There must be a way to figure out who is truly most burdened, Clara suggested, her voice shaking as she stepped forward, trying to rally what little courage had not yet flickered out. If we understand what drives our envy, maybe we can find a solution without sacrifice. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded, while others flinched, clutching their loved ones as if they could shield themselves. The air was electric with uncertainty. And how do we do that? A voice croaked from the back. Open our hearts and lay bare our sins. That won't solve anything. We'd just betray ourselves. Clara felt the weight of despair settle over her. What choice do we have? A figure emerged from the shadows. Ada, the town's herbalist, her face weathered but determined. What you suggest has weight, Clara. I've witnessed the darkness creep into souls. Secrets can fester, turning friends into enemies. But sometimes, facing truth can set us free. Maybe we can share our burdens, Clara urged. Speak our truths before the whole town. Maybe it will cleanse us. The crowd fell silent, considering her words. Then whispers rose again, turning into voices brimming with fear. But what if it reveals the worst in us? The moon hung high, casting a silvery glow that seemed to flicker and waver, like the fragile hope in Clara's heart. Then let it, Clara said, her heart thumping hard. We stand together. All of us. Or we let the darkness make the choice. But just as the townsfolk began to murmur in agreement, the wind whipped violently, stealing her words away into the night. Each gust pulled at their clothes, their spirits, and from the distance, a low rumble echoed ominously, as if the earth itself was responding to the weight of their fears. The crowd gasped, backs instinctively straightening. And then it came a shadow, darker than the night, swirling and twisting towards them, drawing nearer with a furious pace. Not everyone will accept truth lightly, Clara, the whispered voice of the figure returned, echoing through the turmoil, amplifying their trepidation. Prepare yourself, for the true price may be far greater than one sacrifice. With those words, the shadow shifted like a living entity, dancing in tandem with fear. The townsfolk began to step back, confusion and panic flooding their eyes, hearts racing like wild birds trying to escape a trap. Clara held her ground, but felt the cold grip of dread tightening around her. Could they gather the courage to face their own demons? Or would their attempts to rid themselves of darkness only draw forth something far more sinister? The figure loomed closer, and Clara realized that this was only the beginning of an unfathomable reckoning. She took a deep breath, feeling the bitterness of courage and fear wrestle inside her. There was no turning back now. Would confronting their jealousy lead to salvation or destruction? For all in Willow Creek? The wind howled like a creature in pain, swirling debris and whispers around Clara and the crowd. She could feel the shadow drawing closer, its essence dark and consuming, feeding off their fear. Clara's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears louder than the chaos around her. She had to act. There was no time to lose. "Everyone, please!" Clara cried out, her voice cutting through the rising panic. "This darkness thrives on our fear. We can't let it tear us apart." But the onlookers weren't listening. They were too engrossed in the creeping shadow, their faces twisted in horror. "Clara, what do we do?" Greg's desperate gaze met hers, his wide eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What do we say?" "I don't know." Panic clawed at Clara's insides, but she forced herself to focus. "We can start by sharing, just like I said. Let us face it together." Ada stepped forward, emboldened by Clara's surge of determination. "We all have something to lose. It's time to let it all out right here, right now. Secrets have torn us apart long enough." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, uncertainty still gripping them. Clara could feel their hesitation, but the shadow loomed larger, almost swallowing the light from the moon. "Do it!" Clara shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "If we let this darkness consume us, there won't be anything left. Who will go first?" A tremor raced through the townsfolk, and then, slowly, a girl stepped up. Clara recognized her as Nina, a shy girl who'd always been quick to smile. But now, her cheeks were stained with tears, and her hands trembled at her sides. I never told anyone," Nina stammered, her voice breaking. "I envied the baker. I wanted his talents. Instead of supporting him, I hoped he would fail." Clara watched as the shadow responded, curling and twisting in response to Nina's confession. It darkened, pulling back slightly, as if reacting to the released burden. A murmur of astonished acceptance rippled through the crowd, emboldening others. One by one, they confessed their hidden resentments. Tom, who revealed his jealousy of a neighbor's luck. Julia, trembling as she laid bare her long-hidden grievance against another for their success. Each confession weakened the shadow, which flickered and twisted, momentarily losing its strength. With every shared secret, Clara began to feel a flicker of hope. Maybe this was working. The weight of emotions poured out, like a dam breaking, washing away the dirt of envy and pain that lay beneath. But then, just as the crowd found their voice, the temperature dropped, and the shadows surged forward, as if enraged by the exposure. "That's it!" a voice roared among them. "Betray your own? Is that what you come to do? To air out your dirty laundry? You do not want to face the truth?" Clara's heart sank as a man she recognized as Harold stepped forward, his eyes glimmering with fervor. "This is the price of truth. You've awakened the beast. It will claim a life for every sin you speak." Whispers of fear erupted, scattering the momentum like leaves caught in a gust. The shadow pulsed ominously, and the crowd began to back away, fear reestablishing its grip over them once again. "No!" Clara shouted, pulling them back together. "We can't give in. You all came here with your own burdens. Fight this fear together. We are stronger than it." But the whispers grew louder and heavier, drowning her out as the shadow clawed at her with icy fingers, dragging them into the depths of despair. And then Clara saw it, a glimmer of defiance in Greg's eyes, joined by Ada, and one by one, others began to move forward, determined to face their truths rather than cower in fear. There, amidst the turmoil, she realized something broader was unfolding. They were at the cusp of enlightenment or devastation, but could their revelations be enough to overpower the darkness? In that moment, the shadow lunged, threatening to envelop them all in its despair. Clara drew a breath, instinctively stepping closer to the edge of the encroaching void. "Whatever happens next, we do this together," she declared, feisty resolve pushing back against the dread. But as the shape distorted further and swirled towards them, Clara felt an overwhelming chill. What would confront them next as the truths unfolded? Would this communal bravery be enough, or would the darkness extract a far steeper price? The shadow lunged like a predator, its smoky tendrils reaching out as terror froze the crowd in place. Clara's heart hammered in her chest, but she couldn't let fear coalesce into despair. "Keep confessing. We're stronger than this," she urged, her voice steady but tinged with desperation. Greg took a step forward, his fists clenched. "I have something." His voice was raw, breaking through the cacophony. "I've hid my true self for too long. I wanted to be the perfect son, but all I feel is rage. Every time I thought of my father's dreams for me, I hated who I was forced to become." As his secret unfurled, the swirling darkness trembled, retreating as if the truth struck it. Clara could see it, each confession chipped away at its menacing form. The wounds of envy and regret poured out like poison, lifting burdens from their shoulders. With newfound courage, others joined Greg, stepping forward into the fray. Ada began to speak, her voice fierce. "I'm tired of being just the nice girl people expect. I wanted to scream every time someone assumed I'd just take it all. I fought with myself, and now it's time I fight this." The fear that had choked them now bubbled into energy. "Let it go!" Clara barked, emboldening the crowd. "Let it out!" echoed a voice from the back, and suddenly everyone had something to share. Each truth brought with it a wave that pushed against the shadow's pull, revealing how deeply they were all tethered by their secrets. But then, just as light began to warm the edges of despair, Harold clutched his head, his face twisting in horror. "Stop it! You're making it worse. You're just feeding the beast with your lies." He fell to his knees, the shadow coiling around him like a serpent. Panic ignited again. "Harold, don't!" Clara cried. "You're not beyond saving. Face your darkness." "I can't!" he roared, eyes wide and wild. "You don't understand. When I was younger, I pushed someone away, someone I loved. I chose jealousy over compassion." A low growl emanated from the shadow as his confession echoed, then jerked violently, as if absorbing the weight of the pain. Every gaze turned to Clara, confusion swarming her thoughts. They had come together, and yet, in their desperation, could they truly break free? Or would their admission of sins draw the shadow in closer, claim another life? "Clara!" Greg shouted, breaking her from the trance. "We need all of us. There's no way we can do this alone." Hesitation clawed at Clara's heart. "I have secrets too," she admitted, voice trembling. The crowd shivered but stayed firm. "I've let your pain hold me back. I've lost focus on who I am." Would admitting her truth shatter their fragile alliance, or strengthen it? The air crackled with tension. The shadow writhed nearest to her, as if seeking to consume her words before they could escape. Would they prevail, or was the darkness waiting for one final confession to seize victory? As Clara prepared to release the weight of her own burdens, she felt a shuddering silence settle over them. Every eye was fixed, the fear palpable. Would this final admission be the key to their salvation or unleash even more chaos? Fingers tightening on her throat, Clara's voice quaked as she prepared to reveal her deepest secret. "I'm afraid that if I speak, it might cost someone their life." And then, amidst the growing storm of whispers and shadow, a sudden crack of thunder split the sky, lighting up the surroundings with a blinding flash, revealing visions that none expected. What truths would spill out in the wake of that lightning? And would they be strong enough to hold back the encroaching darkness? The flash of light illuminated Clara's face, casting sharp shadows that twitched across her skin. In that moment, confessions hung heavy in the charged air, a collective breath ready to be unleashed. Clara could feel the raw energy vibrating between them, a current that demanded release. But her own truth, that terrifying secret, gnawed at her, coiling tighter around her stomach. "Clara," Greg urged, his eyes wide with determination. "Don't hold back. We're with you." His encouragement was a lifeline, yet the fear still held her frozen. With each heartbeat, the malevolent shadow grew more restless, its tendrils hungry for the vacuum left when silence filled the space. Harold's anguished cries reverberated in her mind. His pain was palpable, but what he had revealed, the jealousy, was that her burden too? "Please," someone whispered from the back. "We need to know. You can't leave us in darkness." The rush of desperate pleas, intertwined with the swirling shadow's restless shuffling, pushed Clara over the edge. "I once turned my back on someone who needed me." The admission flew from her lips, raw and unfiltered. "I thought it would protect me, but I shattered them instead. I will not let that happen again." Electricity pulsed through the crowd, igniting a chorus of confessions that echoed like a warm tide, folding over the icy grip of despair. Vulnerability shimmered in the air, and the shadow quivered, as if struck by the very force of their honesty. "Every time I faced difficulty, I pushed away the people I loved," a voice cried out, resonating from deep in the shadows. "I thought I was strong, acting out of pride, but all I did was isolate myself." "Me too," another voice chimed in, voices rising like flames. Each confession chipped away at the shadow's hold, bits of it scattering like ash. Clara felt exhilaration mixed with fear. The darkness wouldn't go down without a fight, but just then, the shadow reared back, expanding, gathering strength as if feeding off their raw honesty. Clara's heart raced as she sensed its growing power. "Keep going!" she screamed, not just to the crowd, but also to herself. "We can't stop now." "What if we're wrong?" Harold cried, still writhing on the ground. "What if our truths aren't enough? What if it consumes us all?" His question echoed through the night, planting seeds of doubt. Clara's stomach twisted. The possibility that these revelations could unravel them rather than heal them loomed larger than the shadow itself. In the midst of the clamor, she caught sight of Greg, his expression a blend of determination and fear. "Harold, your truth has power. Don't let it quake you," he called out, stepping closer to reassure him. And yet, as if sensing his growing resolve, the shadow lunged forward, reaching for him. Clara's instinct kicked in as painful realization washed over her. Could it take one of them entirely? "Wait!" she shouted, heart in her throat. "It's moving! Don't fall for its tricks!" The words barely faded before the figure dissolved into a rush of whispers, a whirlwind of half-finished thoughts and shattering memories. It was a chaotic spiral, pulling people in as they tried to stand their ground. "No! Fight back!" Clara shouted, barely hearing her own voice against the roaring wind. The electric energy surged around them, the power of truths weaving like a net. But was it strong enough to hold the darkness at bay? With fire in her eyes, she moved closer, thrusting her spirit forward. "It's time to let go," she bellowed, gathering every ounce of her own grief, her guilt, her fear. "We declare ourselves free." And then, with that declaration, the crowd erupted in passion-fueled honesty, their voices layering over each other like a symphony suddenly vibrant and unshakable. The darkness retaliated, pulsating violently, but Clara could see it now, wavering, faltering under the weight of their resolve. But would that be enough? Would the force of their combined truths banish the shadow back into the void? Amidst it all, Clara felt the surge of possibility. They could defeat it. But just as hope shot through the growing storm, a furious wind swept through, carrying with it a voice, sharp and sinister. "Your truths mean nothing. You're still bound by your failures." As fear gripped the group, Clara locked her eyes on the shifting shape ahead. A true confrontation loomed. Would they find the strength in vulnerability, or would the cost of their honesty be too great? What would the next confession unleash? And could even their most potent truths withstand the oncoming storm? The air crackled with tension as Clara's voice cut through the chaos, a beacon of raw honesty and resolve. "No! We won't back down," she cried, rallying them as the shadow loomed. Each tremor in its form echoed the fears they harbored within themselves, the unspoken words that had weighed heavily on their souls. As the creature twisted and bellowed, its voice sounded like a chorus of their deepest insecurities. The crowd began to panic, faces turning pale with dread. "What if it knows everything?" someone yelled, their panic spilling into the space like a dark tide. Clara could see the fear clawing at their hearts like barbed wire. "Focus!" Greg shouted, his voice rising triumphant against the cacophony, his figure almost glowing against the encroaching darkness. "Remember why we're here. We're stronger together." His words resonated like a drumbeat, reverberating through the thrumming energy. Clara turned. Greg's steadfast determination fueled her courage. "We can reclaim our truths. They are our armor." She could feel the collective gasp of the crowd. But the shadow responded with fury. It surged forward, tendrils lashing out like dark lightning. "You are all broken. Your honesty is shattered glass." It howled, slashing through their declarations. The crowd stumbled back, fear curling around their hearts like a vice. Clara fought to stay grounded, the air growing thick with dread. "No!" she shouted, the word bursting from her with desperation. "Our pain is valid. It doesn't define us. every ounce of her being screamed against that pulsating void as she dug deep for strength. "Find your power," Greg shouted, and Clara's heart raced. There was truth in those words, a flicker of hope, like a flame in the darkness. One by one, they echoed her. "I am stronger than my regrets." A woman's voice broke through, trembling with the weight of the past. "I won't let shame bind me." Another voice shouted, revitalized and fierce. Clara felt the energy shift. Each declaration, a sword shining in the dim light, sliced through the overwhelming despair. The darkness shuddered, momentarily distracted, ripping apart under the onslaught of their conviction. But then, as they pressed forward, a chilling realization washed over Clara. This wasn't just an enemy to fight. It was a reflection, a mirror revealing their hidden fears, their buried shame. How could they face it if they could not face themselves? "Listen," she pleaded to them, her pulse racing as the ominous shape writhed on the edges, the shroud threatening to envelop them again. "We have to confront every piece of ourselves that we've hidden. That's how we defeat it." But doubt lurked beneath her proclamation. Was this truly the way? "Stay with your truth. It will lead you," Greg urged, eyes aflame with determination, as he stepped in front of a few trembling souls. His resolve sparked something inside Clara, awakening the shadows that had nestled deep within her. Images flooded into her mind, faces of those she had hurt, moments lost forever, and the secrets she still clutched like a vice. They were the very shreds of her conscience that bled in the battle against the darkness. Would sharing them make her stronger, or make her waver? Before she could sink too deeply into her thoughts, a horrific shriek erupted, more urgent this time. "This is your reckoning!" The shadows screamed, lunging forward, boiling with rage, as if it sensed their hesitation. Panic gripped Clara's chest, but she straightened her spine, taking a breath. "We face it together," she shouted. Around her, the chorus of voices rang out, a primal roar of defiance. "Together." But as the shockwaves from their declarations hit the shadow, a bellowing laugh echoed, shaking the very ground beneath them. "You think unity can help you?" it mocked, dark tendrils wrapping tighter around their ankles. "Foolish mortals. Your unity is mere paper against the storm." In that moment, Clara's resolve hardened. They had come this far. They couldn't falter now. "We will break its hold. We will rise." But just as the words escaped her, she felt the ground shift, and doubt crept back in. Could they truly withstand this onslaught? What hidden truths would they unearth next? And when the darkness strikes back, would they shatter or find strength in their unyielding honesty? A thought echoed through her. What would they discover if they chose to embrace the pain rather than run from it? Because whatever it was, the confrontation was only just beginning. The darkness lashed out, a furious tempest of shadow and sound. Each tentacle seemed to grab at the resolve Clara had ignited in her companions. The air thrummed, thick with palpable fear. Clara could hear quickened breaths, whispers of doubt rippling through the crowd. "Hold on." Greg's voice, steady and vibrant, cut through the clamor. "We are more alive in each other as truths. Remember your declarations." He raised his hands, as if to steady the oncoming storm. "I am not my fears," a young man shouted, surprising himself. Clara watched as a fire sparked in his eyes. Clara felt the power swell, but the darkness was relentless. It twisted, morphing into grotesque faces, fragments of their own fears embedded in its swirling mass. Clara stumbled slightly, her heart thudding harshly against her ribs. "Look away. Don't let it see you," someone cried out. But Clara shook her head. "No. It thrives on our silence. Don't shy away from truth." With each word, she stepped closer to the darkness, a steadying breath pushing her forward. Suddenly, the shadow let out a deafening roar, an unsettling sound nearly drowning out the voices of her comrades. Clara felt the edges of reality blur. It was no longer just a battle of wills. She sensed a deeper connection, a shared vulnerability. The shadows seemed to swell with dark laughter, a sound drenching the air with despair. You think revealing those frail truths will save you? You will emerge raw, exposed. Your pain will consume you. The crowd hesitated, their voices quieting, doubt creeping in like fog. Clara's gaze swept across the faces, reflecting fear mixed with uncertainty. Then she caught Greg's eye, that same fire still burning. We'll be scarred, but those scars will remind us of who we are. Clara's voice surged, wrapping around each breath and filling it with strength. Our truth is a weapon. It's time to make peace within ourselves. With a deep breath, she let the truths pour out. The painful memories surged forth, tumbling over each other. I was ashamed of my past, ashamed of the mistakes I made. But those were lessons. Around her, others began to share, prompted by her raw honesty. I lost someone, and I never forgave myself, confessed an older woman, her eyes glistening. I hated myself for letting him go. As the confessions accumulated, Clara stood tall, the weight of their words merging with her own. She felt the ground steadying beneath them, a shared foundation of honesty solidifying their unity. The shadow roared in rage, the dark tendrils flailing impotently against the brightness of their declarations. Your truth binds you, but does not save you. It shrieked, its voice laced with venom. But Clara only squeezed her eyes shut and pushed back against the rising tide. We are not what we hide. We are not alone. And with that, the crowd erupted. We are not alone. They shouted, a resounding echo reverberating through the air, a symphony of shared pain and triumph. As their voices coming led, the darkness began to ripple, swaying under the sheer weight of their honest declarations. Clara's heart raced, every pulse thrummed with newfound power. But just as victory seemed within reach, the shadow unleashed its most potent attack, yet a heart-stopping scream echoed, shaking the ground beneath Clara's feet. A chilling realization hit her, cold as ice. Light flickered in the corner of her mind. What if confronting their truths unleashed more than they could handle? What if we lose ourselves completely? She thought, dread pooling in her stomach, blood running cold. In that moment of despair, Clara understood this battle was far from over. They had only begun to uncover the darkness that trapped them. The hardest truths lay just beneath the surface. With that, another wave of shadows surged, threatening to envelop them all. Clara took a deep breath, ready to plunge deeper into the darkness. What lay hidden beneath the shadows, waiting to be unearthed? And would they be able to survive the unrelenting truth when it finally surfaced? The surge of shadows crackled like lightning, each dark tendril reaching for Clara and her friends. It felt alive, sentient in its relentless hunger for the vulnerability they were courageously exposing. Clara squared her shoulders, her entire being pulsing with determination. "Stay together," she shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We've opened the door. We can't let it close us in." Around her, individuals clung to their truths like lifebuoys in a sea of despair. "I lost my voice," a woman cried out, her hands trembling. "I let others define me. I've always been invisible," a young girl whispered, her eyes wide with fear. "What if I am nothing?" Each confession threw brilliant sparks against the encroaching darkness. Yet as the words echoed back around them, the shadow recoiled and surged, more aggressive than before. Clara could sense the darkness shifting, angrier, more frantic. It was again morphing, this time into a vast, swirling mass of their deepest regrets and failures, a living tapestry woven from their own minds. "Face it," Greg yelled, his voice trembled but fierce. "It can't harm us if we accept it." But the creeping despair began wrapping around their minds, planting seeds of doubt. Clara gritted her teeth and fought against the wave threatening to drag her under. She focused on the girl's terrified face. "Listen. If we don't acknowledge it, If we don't own it, it'll hold us captive forever. Don't let it win. The crowd rallied behind her, voices growing stronger. But just as hope began to build, a chilling wind swept through, snatching their declarations midair. The darkness hissed, twisting like a serpent. Fools! It spat, edges draped in the remnants of broken dreams. You think your truths are enough? The past remains a chain that binds you, no matter how loudly you scream. Every breath Clara took felt heavier under the weight of the entity's relentless taunts. It wasn't just a nightmare. It was a reckoning, forcing each person to confront the very essence of their pain. Willing or not. Keep talking. Keep sharing. Don't stop. Clara urged as the air thickened, afraid to let the darkness win. Though her heart was racing, the urgency was pulsing from her. A man stepped forward. His face, a mask of anguish, cut through the shadows. I felt like a failure when I lost my job. I let my family down. His voice faltered, fear creeping back into his words. No! Push through. Clara called, desperation now tinging her tone. Your truth isn't a weakness, it's your armor. But with those words, the shadow responded, gathering like a storm, blurring reality. The temperature dropped, a suffocating cold knitting through the air. Clara's breath misted in front of her, and dread tightened around her throat. From the depths emerged a figure twisted and distorted. A dark version of herself, an echo of every doubt lodged in her soul. It bore the weight of her fears, the shadows of guilt and despair she'd tried to bury. The beast opened its mouth, a void with no sound, just silence deep as graves. Who will you choose to be? It whispered, an insidious challenge. You fear losing your truth, but what if you could deny it altogether? Clara felt her guts twist, emotion lashing at her like a whip. Would her truth lead to her freedom, or was it a trap meant to drown her? Stand strong. Greg yelled, his voice fierce as stone. This is just a reflection. We are not bound by who we were. Yet, as the whirlpool of darkness heightened around them, Clara's resolve began to waver. The fear clawed at her insides. Could they truly face what lay beneath, or would uncovering the secrets consume them all? Holding on to hope, Clara took a step closer to the shadow. We choose ourselves, she whispered, the words trembling. No matter the cost. What she didn't see was the shadows shifting, weaving deeper questions and sinister truths beneath the gathering storm, prowling for the moment between revelation and ruin. What else could they unearth in their pursuit of freedom? Would the reflection staring back lead to salvation or total annihilation? The air crackled with tension as Clara stepped forward, confronting the vicious shadow that threatened to engulf them all. It loomed large, distorting her fears into a twisted silhouette, a reflection of her pain and uncertainty. She could feel the tremors in the crowd, the unsteadied breaths echoing her own. Each confession, each revelation had chipped away at its form, but now it roared back, furious with the light they had cast upon their darkness. Face it! Greg shouted again, his voice steady. What's lost is not lost forever. Our truths might hurt, but they also heal. Clara nodded, taking Greg's words to heart. Didn't they all know pain? It was part of living, part of being human. She turned to the townsfolk, each face lined with fear, but also determination. We can do this, she urged, heart racing. Don't let it consume you. We're here for a reason. The truth can set us free. The shadows writhed, tendrils reaching out for those who faltered, but their resolve surged like a tide behind Clara's rallying cry. With each step forward, Clara felt the warmth deep within her heart. I am who I choose to be, she shouted, her voice slicing through the furious wind. I am not bound by failure. A voice rang out from the crowd, emboldened by Clara's spirit. Others joined in, the words lifting off their tongues like a chorus of defiance against the suffocating shadows. I want to be ashamed of what I've done. shouted another, fierceness igniting within. I embrace my past. I am more than my indie. As more voices joined in, a powerful tapestry of confessions began to take form, illuminating the dark landscape with flickering light. The monstrous shadow convulsed, shrieking against their unity, but Clara sensed it starting to wane. "This is the moment!" she cried, her spirit igniting, determined not to let the darkness reclaim its grip. Your past is not your prison. Each truth shared is a key unlock your heart. But just as they pressed forward, the shadow lunged, tendrils as dark as night reaching for Clara with ferocity. "You think you can escape?" it bellowed, its voice like gravel scraping against stone. "You cannot. You are but children lost in the dark." "No!" Clara shouted back, shaking off the fear that gripped her. This was a battle she was willing to fight. We choose unity over division. We choose love over jealousy. In that moment, something shifted. Whispers of trust began to swirl amongst them, weaving a protective barrier against the chaos. The townsfolk rallied, feeling the strength of their shared burdens, pushing against the dark wave that sought to tear them apart. Every voice carried a story. Every confession rooted them deeper together. As light broke forth from within, Clara pointed toward the shadow. "You will not take our souls. We are not defined by our secrets." The darkness deflated, momentarily caught off guard by the onslaught of revelations. Each confession weakened its hold, each fierce voice a dazzling flash of brightness that chased away the despair. Clara could feel the tide turning. They were winning, and the realization ignited something unexpected. The shadow shrieked, a sound like 1,000 voices lamenting their truth. "Your light is futile. I am ancient. I thrive on your failures. No more." Greg stepped in front of Clara, his expression resolute. "We learn from our failures, and it only makes us stronger." The truth resonated through the crowd, igniting sparks in their hearts as they shouted in unison, "We rise together." With one final, mighty roar, the darkness collapsed under the weight of their collective strength. The figure writhed, and then, like smoke blown away in a strong wind, it dissipated, scattering into the night. Silence blanketed the cemetery as the townsfolk stood together, breathless in the aftermath. Clara looked around, disbelief and relief flooding through her. They had faced the darkest parts of themselves and emerged intact. Together, she realized, her heart swelling with hope. Just then, the full moon broke through the clouds overhead, illuminating the statue of Saint Benedict. Flashes of crimson caught Clara's eye, and a single tear ran down the raucous cheek, but this time, it felt different, not of judgment, but of understanding. As if Saint Benedict himself bore witness to their growth and resilience. "Let us never forget this feeling," Greg said, his voice thick with emotion. "We came together as friends, facing fears. We are never alone in our struggles." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of a renewed purpose settling inside her. "I won't let jealousy or pain define me again." As the townsfolk embraced, warmth spread through them, erasing the night's chill. Together, they would move forward, allowing their truths to shine brightly, casting away the shadows that had once haunted them. "Now," Greg added, raising a hand in camaraderie, "let us make this town a true community, where support reigns over envy." And with that, Clara finally sensed peace. The winds of Willow Creek shifted, carrying the promise of brighter days ahead. It was a new dawn, not just for them as individuals, but for Willow Creek as a whole. As they began to disperse, laughter and chatter filled the air, pushing the night's darkness further back. But just as they walked away, Clara paused, a thought blooming inside her. She felt it was important to remember, to ensure no one else would suffer alone again. Then she turned back toward the statue, a smile lingering on her face. "Thank you, Saint Benedict," she whispered, "for helping us see our truest selves." And with their hearts united and spirits soaring, the people of Willow Creek stepped forward into their bright future, together ready for whatever came next. As the sunlight began to paint the sky in radiant colors, Clara made a promise deep within. This wasn't just a one-time fight. They would cherish this power, this courage, and embrace the truth that love, honesty, and friendship could conquer even the most consuming darkness. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now, it helps us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. We want to know what you think, and don't wait even one more second to share this video. Send it to at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Join our community and stand together. Let us keep the light shining bright.